I'm Rick Zamperin, and this is the CHCH Newsmakers podcast. Remember cramming for that science exam, reading over how an algebraic formula worked, or memorizing the definition of a term until your head hurt? Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. There's gotta be a better way. Well, today on Newsmakers, we are joined by Toronto Metropolitan University professor and learning strategist Deena Shaffer, who's going to prove that there is a better way, right?
There really is, and I promise it doesn't involve cramming anymore.
Okay, so why have we never learned, up until this very moment, how to study?
I love your question so much, and it's what fuels my whole life. I don't know why not, but I can tell you that learning strategies are not taught in teacher education. And so we can't blame students for what they don't know how to do. We have these kind of recycled approaches. I'm just going to write all of my notes out. I'm going to go over. I'm not quite sure what going over. I'm going to go over my teacher's notes or slide decks. None of those things count as studying. And it is my life's mission to get this in teacher education, to get this in students' hands, to get this in parents' hands, because we know it's a source of conflict at home. Parents might say, well, this is what worked for me. We know how well that conversation is going to go in a household. So it is curious to me, too, why it's not been there. In part, my guess is there's some really, really clear research, but it kind of exists in the hands of some very brilliant academics over in this pocket and over in that pocket, but it hasn't trickled into curriculum and into policy. And I'm very keen to see that change.
So when did this start for you? When did this passion erupt to say, we got to do something?
Oh, blessings for asking that question. In a way, it was when I was fumbling as a high school teacher. I would work amongst teachers who were absolutely brilliant at teaching the historical context of George Orwell. That's not quite how my brain works. What I could do for my students, and my students at the time when I was teaching high school, I was in my mid-20s, they were struggling with addiction, struggling with mental health issues, ADHD. They were often on journeys of addiction. And there I was, not very good at historical context, but the one thing I could do is go, you know what? I could teach you how to read this book, even if you find it the most boring thing you've ever read. I could teach you how to write, even if writing is painful. I can teach you how to prepare for that quiz. I was doing the work of learning strategies before I knew what learning strategies were, and it's because I cared so much, not about English literature, which I like very much. My goodness, I have taught so many years of high school doing that, but it was about having students feel free to move on to the next step. So whether it was the sciences, whether it was engineering or architecture, that's their choice. I just wanted them to be equipped, and I saw a place that I could do that for them.
So when did that click in terms of, okay, these are the things you should be doing, and this is the stuff that's not going to work for you?
I was noticing the patterns that students would go through. Students would stay up all night studying. They would come to me the next day in tears with exhaustion. They would write their tests. Sometimes they would blank out or panic midway through. And they would say, but I spent hours. And so I was beginning to see a mismatch between what they were saying they were spending their time doing and how they were performing on assessments. There was no calibration there. Thinking, okay, there has to be a better way. And from there, then moving into becoming a formal learning specialist or strategist at Toronto Metropolitan University years ago, in their disability services office, encountering every kind of learning journey, the most difficult impacts on learning. Aha, I get it. Mm-hmm. I can teach you how to make this more memorable, more successful. I can teach you how to flourish in your academics.
When you were a student, did you do it the right way or the way that you are now teaching other students?
No.
Okay.
I was a first-generation student. I had no real guidance as to how to do it. And I fumbled along. I think somebody may have asked me or brought it up in the first class, a professor, there's a writing center, and I'm thinking, what is that? What would I do? What would I say? There's no way I'm going. I'm much too scared. I wouldn't even know what to ask for. And I think that makes me a more trustworthy strategist because school wasn't always so easy or straightforward for me.
If you had your strategy back then, how much better at school or studying or doing tests would you have been?
Oh, I would be an archaeologist, pediatrician, like astrophysicist.
Right.
And maybe that's not true. Maybe the truth is I would be doing exactly this because it is singularly the way that I can be in service. I can change a student's life by simply showing them what they are not taught along the journey. And then it helps them, wouldn't you know, when they enter first year university or college, into grad school, and perhaps most profoundly into the work world. Why? What do we hear all of the time? Students in distress, new grads going, wait, I have to be at a workplace 5 days a week in person. Deadlines are immovable. Pace is fast. I have to listen to somebody at a meeting, remember, take notes. And then there's the connection. Those are all of the things that in lower stakes way are practiced in the classroom, are practiced in lecture halls. Yeah. And so for me, there's a real worthwhileness, a real worthiness of this endeavor of trying to get learning strategies in the hands of every student with every learning profile, no matter what they're studying.
You mentioned cramming. Why does cramming not work?
Because it's not how memory works. So if we try to force a bunch of information last minute, all at once, it doesn't stick. It's not very durable. What a way better strategy is, in fact, it could even take less overall time. This is the magic of it. If you took those 5 hours that you spend sweating it out the night before and spread that out, say 2 weeks before, 45 minutes every other day, every 2 days, and instead of cramming, instead of rewriting, instead of beautifying your notes, which I know feels very satisfying, it's like very nice to feel organized, 0% of that is studying. None of it will help with remembering. But instead, if you did practice questions, it does change a student's life. It changes their confidence. Why? When you write a test or exam, are you asked to rewrite anything? Nope. No. You're not asked to beautify or organize. You're asked to solve problems. So our best bet is to practice the very thing that we actually do on a test, which is I have to retrieve, I have to find the information, I have to make connections across topics, and then I have to solve a problem that I may not have seen before. We want to practice doing that.
Right. So give us an example of how we would practice that.
Oh my goodness, so many ways. So if we want to bring in some kind of groovy ethical AI into this, what we could do is use a very beautiful tool, Notebook LM. It's free. It doesn't scrape from garbage internet. You could put in, and it also protects the IP of the teacher or prof. You could put in those notes, the slide decks, take a picture of your class notes, and then you could ask, make a practice test for me, make a mock exam. Give me 10 multiple choice questions. Give me 3 short answer. And we don't have to prepare for that. We take it. We take it the very first day that we have a test assigned. It's usually the opposite of what most students do. What do most students do? They rewrite their notes, and if they get a practice exam, they will wait until the day or two before. I have to prepare. No, you don't at all. You take those practice questions, you take that mock exam, and it serves as a diagnostic of what you remember and what you don't. And what you don't, you go back, you reteach, you ask questions of your teacher, and then you practice more questions.
Right. Another part of your survival guide when it comes to studying is short intervals. Why are short intervals much more effective in remembering or recalling or making those connections as opposed to that 5-hour cram session?
Well, if you think about any of our attention spans, not even if we're like, oh, young people today and their digital device, any of us, how long can you really pay attention before you tune out? This podcast isn't going to be 2.5 hours, right? And so
that's not the plan, by the way.
That's right. I mean, I kind of want it to go there. But the key is we don't need to overdo it. Right. We can stay within that tolerable window, and not just that. And this is where it might feel counter to many students and many families. You would be so much better served to have a contained, clearly defined, I'm studying for 25 minutes, or I'm doing these 10 practice questions. And then I'm going to move. I'm going to get fresh air. I'm going to walk my dog. I'm going to go to the park and play 15 minutes of basketball before I then return and move on to the rest of the work for the evening. We get a little bit confused about what is subtractive from our study time or work time and what actually adds energy. We want to get more strategic, and we want to think about sustainability. That cramming method, that hours upon hours and upon hours, what do you think the next day is like?
You're crashing, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So we're not only affecting the performance on that assessment, that timed assessment. Afterwards, students will often be so exhausted, no work can happen for a day or two. They'll often get sick. That's not a sustainable model of work. And so my big appeal to parents, when someone asks you, how are you doing? What are parents' top 5 answers? I'm depleted, I'm overwhelmed, I'm exhausted.
They might say they're fine, but they're all of those, right?
Yeah, but then if we linger there and we sort of tilt our head like, really? And they might even say, I'm burnt out. All of us want better, and we want better for our kids. And so the idea that you could do less in one evening, spread out over time, and work from a place of non-urgency all the time, that's non-toxic productivity. That is sustainable work, instead of, I'm going to do it all at once, and then I am going to be utterly ineffective, if not outright sick, for the next couple days.
Is that why you think most students just want to leave it to the end because they don't like studying?
It's a wonderful question. Studying isn't very enjoyable.
I mean, they'd rather be doing anything else, going outside on their phone, you know what I mean?
Anything else, let's be honest, right? It's quiet. It can be frustrating. It sometimes doesn't make us feel very good about ourselves.
Right.
Like, I remember my teacher teaching, I remember what they wore that day. I can't for the life of me remember what this material is actually about.
And the mental space might be thinking, oh, I'm going to flunk this test. I can't remember anything.
Yeah.
It's really frustrating.
Yeah. So there's a lot of inner dialogue going on. But when we can shift the conversation to not too much and not all at once, it's a game changer. And the great thing for students is it doesn't take very long to have proof of concept that this works. When a learner goes in to write a test that they don't blank out for, that they're not wearing their pajamas, where they're not flipping through in that frenzy. If you go into an sort of, they'll have really big exams on post-secondary campuses in gyms. And if you walk by those spaces, there is a lot of fatigue and a lot of last-minute panic.
Right.
And I want to encourage students to step away from that procrastination to panic loop that they find themselves in. And frankly, a lot of parents, non-judgmentally, find themselves in too. And for me, one of the keys is directly teaching learning strategies. Here's how studying really works.
There is a best time of the day for each individual to study. I want to get to that in a second. But from a parent perspective, how should they approach this with their children? Say, listen, we're going to do 25 minutes at this point of the day, 5 days a week, or whatever the case is, and let's go.
Yeah, there's a lot of wisdom in your question here, because we know that it can be tender and on the precipice of friction when we're talking about tweens and teens, and when we're talking about adolescence. I'm with you. And I think a couple ways to navigate that conversation is, we never want to lecture, but we do want to inquire. When we see our learners struggling when they're up late at night, we don't want to challenge them in the moment, but we can ask them, how did that go? You can say, I saw this a weird learning strategist on CH, and she was saying, or you can share, what I'm starting to do, because I'm finding myself really close to burnout. I'm going to start chipping away at my workload, doing a couple minutes over a longer period of time. So what that's about is asking, it's about reflection, and it's about role modeling.
And proving that it's working, because then your child is going to buy in.
Yes, and they get that lived experience.
Yeah.
So when they go into that exam and they know how to answer it, when clients come and their prospective families come, I don't say, look, you're all going to get A+. what I know for sure, because it happens every single time, is when the inputs change, when we're studying less but earlier and more often over time, the output, that exam, goes phenomenally better. So students move from probation to Dean's List, students move from D to an A. It's just the natural outcome. I don't find that the most interesting thing, but it is what happens every time when we lay bare, this is how learning actually goes.
Yeah. So you have a big test on a Friday. How far in advance should we start?
Yes, great question. So I want to honor that there are a lot of different kinds of tests and that there isn't a prescription. I'm just not in the work of imposing one singular way for all learners, because I work with students, autism, ADHD, medical conditions, trauma from the school context itself. But a great starting place can be, look, if you have a quiz, start 1 week before.
Okay.
If you have a test, start 2 weeks before. And if you have an exam, start 3 weeks before. So we call that at Awakened Learning the 3-2-1 method, because it's a helpful benchmark. Then do that once or twice. Oof, 2 weeks was not enough for my chemical engineering class or that criminology class or grade 11 bio. Great, there's information. You need a little bit more time. We work with a lot of mature learners, and we'll be going towards like a nuclear technician upgrade exam. We're gonna need more than 3 weeks. CPAs who are studying. Okay, but what we can do is just extend that time. Same principle, same principle. All you need to do are practice questions over time, and everything will change about your experience of that assessment.
I know everyone's different, but what is the best time of the day to study?
In alignment with your freshest energy. Because here's what usually happens. Because studying is boring, because we can't really study well when we're distracted, because it's quiet most of the time when we're studying, and until you work with a learning strategist, because you think it has to extend for hours and hours and hours on end, what do we normally do? We push it off until the very last thing. Yeah. Who on earth would want to start studying at 10 o'clock at night? So the first step would be determine your rhythms. Sometimes we like to call those chronotypes. And it's funny to me because they're always linked with animal metaphors. Are you a morning lark? Are you a third bird? Are you a night owl? Are you a bear? Are you a wolf? Like, it doesn't actually matter what animal what you identify with or get typified as. If you notice, look, I'm pretty good at 8 o'clock in the morning, or I'm pretty good at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm pretty good at 6 p.m. Great. That's when you start your studying. And the other key piece, this feels so important to share. If you have an exam 3 weeks away, but you also have a much more immediate deadline, group presentation in 4 days, an essay or a lab that's due next week or in 3 days from now, I still want you to start with studying first. Why? It is the easiest thing to push off. If something's 3 weeks away, there's no urgency. And if that's where we've been living, if that's been our strategy, just wait till the panic kicks in, we won't be used to prioritizing something that is on the horizon and not so immediate. Right. But it changes everything when we can work from a non-urgent place.
You mentioned group presentation. Does a group study work?
Yes, for so many reasons. Has to be boundaried. If we call something a study session, but then we just go in and go, can I show you this TikTok? Can I show you this Instagram reel? That's not a study session. Right. But if you can work with trusted peers to go, absolutely, let's have a check-in. How are you? What's top of mind and heart for you? And we allot time. Look, we're going to meet for 90 minutes. First 10 is a loving check-in. We're in relationship. We're not just like machines and automatons. We want to be in good friendship with each other. Yeah. And then we go, great, time's up. We're going to get into it. It can be a superb support. And there's a couple of ways it can work. One is you're with peers from the same class. And you can take turns. Maybe there's a room at a library that you can book, at someone's house, an office where there's a whiteboard or even a wall sticky note. Practice teaching each other. There is no better strategy. Why? You get real clear about what you know and what you don't know when you're trying to explain it to another person. You will find the gaps when they say, I didn't quite follow you. Great. That's not judgment. That's an invitation to go back and repair and create that bridge.
Yeah.
You can also study quietly in the same room as your pals who are in other classes. That's a strategy called body doubling. That comes from the ADHD world. It's very co-regulating and supports accountability when you are sharing space with another person. You could also teach what you are studying to somebody who is not in your class. It will become even more illuminating if they get it or they don't, if they have no familiarity.
Right.
I want to honor all the folks who don't have a close pal or going through tough times and they don't really have a trusted friend or peer group. You can teach a parent, you can teach a mentor, you can teach a pet, and you can teach a potted plant. If you use your voice to begin to explain, you can hear what you don't know. And I will also say you can also use AI this way because there are now audio features where you can effectively speak. Hey, I've got a grade 11 math test on calculus. I want to make sure I've got some fundamental principles down. I'm going to explain it to you. Can you ask me, almost like Socratic dialogue, can you begin to coach me or question me through this and really ask when it doesn't seem like I'm clear on what I'm saying.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of untapped potential when it comes to AI in this regard.
Yes. We often either go all in. KPMG came out and said 73% of students are using AI for homework. I'd love to know how. Makes me a little nervous.
Yeah.
But the other way we go is like, absolutely not, firm no, I distrust all of it. There are superb and very values-aligned ways to use AI. So I mentioned Notebook LM, but another feature of Notebook LM, I'm not a sponsored human, okay? Like I'm just sharing, I just share what I love and what students tell me works. Notebook LM is also one of the most neuro-inclusive tools. So imagine a student who is really struggling with self-regulation in class. They want to ask 15 questions, 25 questions. They want reassurance. They want to repeat back. I want to be sure I get this. That can be very difficult in the social context of a classroom. I don't want that student to feel bad for what they need. And I also don't want the other students to feel alienated. And I know what it is to be that teacher in that space, holding both.
Right.
With Notebook LM, it has a feature called audio overview, where it will create a podcast with two very real sounding voices with the lilt and the humor that creates a broad strokes of whatever the lesson, the PDF, the text that you've given it, and you can interrupt it as many times as you want. I didn't understand that metaphor. Can you re-explain that example? So in that way, it welcomes in more learners and more ways of learning. Not just that, it functions, and this is a really boring learning strategy term. I'm so sorry. I feel like all the words to do with learning strategies are boring. Even the phrase learning strategies is kind of boring. So if anyone has a more compelling way of calling the thing that we're doing. Yeah. But there's something called an advanced organizer. And that just means that in order for us to take in new information, we need to have the kind of step before, the filing cabinet, so that new stuff can come in, right? So we need earlier stuff. New stuff gets bridged in. That makes sense.
Yes.
But what if a student was absent, had a flare in anxiety or depression, sick with mono, injury, and they missed that first class or the first week or the first 2 weeks, and now they're showing up and they're like, I have no idea what's going on. AI can look really attractive because in a fraction of a second, work can be done for you. But that student is still going to face an oral exam, a not open book test. So what that student can do is take any missing weeks, put it into Notebook LM, and ask for a video overview, which will create in about 15 minutes a Canvas-style presentation with a voiceover that walks you through the material. this is a game changer in terms of accessibility. There are so many reasons why a student might miss class. Maybe there's family conflict. Family is going through a divorce. There's somebody who is really unwell, lots of time being spent at the hospital caregiving. Those students are still on a learning journey, and there are more options than I attend every day, or I have to drop out or pause or get an extension for everything. Like, there are other options, and AI makes that really possible. You can also ask AI, look, this is how I've been going about my studying. I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. Can you, using the best of learning strategies and learning science, give me a reflection of how I'm doing? That's a great tip for parents who themselves are like, if I tell my kid, it's really not going to go well. Hey, why don't we turn to AI? Right. We can ask Claude, we can ask Copilot, we could ask Perplexity, and they can give you a micro and non-judgmental review of how your study process is going.
And the child or the student is going to buy in because, hey, it's AI.
It's AI, it's riveting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Back to the short intervals. Yeah. And so 25 minutes at a time, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 1 week, depending on, what the situation is with our testing. Are we piling on? Are we in session 1 compared to session 2 reviewing what we're doing in session 1, or is it a brand new kind of a part of what we're studying?
I love this.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
Question.
No, it makes a lot of sense. So there is never any harm, especially if there's space in between, by starting study session 2, practicing 5 of the trickiest questions from study session 1. Right. That's a great strategy. Okay. Sometimes students think it has to be linear, like I'm following exactly the topics, the chapters, the subheadings.
You're into my mind now.
Right, I was like really trying, okay. So another way that we could think about it is that how a test is presented, where the material is like, first we're doing this, and then you're going to be tested on this? Not often, right? Teachers may have a couple questions like that, but then they become kind of
evil people.
Yes. Or they're trying to get it deeper meaning. And so they might entwine topics.
Sure.
A way to prepare is called interleaving. And that's, again, oh my gosh, right? Eye roll, have I put folks to sleep? But all this means is mix up your topics. So when you're deep into math and you're studying rates one day, and then ratios the next day, and then fractions the next day, and then percentages, instead, let's do 5 questions on percentages, 5 questions on ratios, 5 questions on fractions, and then 5 of each the next time you study. And when we rotate in a different order, when we rotate through, we're really doing some good cognitive work there that will make what we're trying to get good at and what we're trying to make sticky more durable for the test.
So what's happening in the brain there when you're doing that kind of studying?
Well, you're actually practicing the very thing that you're being asked to do. So you are encoding, you are learning how, like you're making connections between, so it's not just these discrete subject areas. You're also being hyper efficient. So if we think about all that is demanded of us in a day, it can be really fatiguing. Now I'm going to practice fractions. Well, how do we make the fraction work stick? By making sure that we're never doing too much. So the other wonderful, wonderful trick that students can use is called the Zeigarnik effect. And that is where we don't fully finish the topic. So this gets to what you're asking, like what's happening underneath there? The brain keeps solving, the brain keeps making connections, even when we stop studying. So the Zeigarnik effect, which comes from when they tested servers at a restaurant, where when they were interrupted, something else, in a restaurant, it's busy, they will still remember a patron's order. Well, the extrapolation is, it's okay if you don't finish all your fraction questions. It's okay if you don't complete that topic or that subject. Things are going to be working themselves through in the back end, even when you have now moved on to writing that paragraph for your English essay or you're working on history reading. Yeah. We want to tap into that magic. So what we're really talking about is retrieval practice, those practice questions, spacing, making sure that it's not just all massed all at once. We're talking about interleaving. We're mixing up topics within a subject. Zygarnik effect. We're not feeling like we have to complete. I got to stay here until I finish this. No, you don't. Yeah. No, you don't. And then we're integrating well-being because we know that rested students, we don't want to borrow from our sleep. We know students who move. You know, students who take time for creative pursuits, community pursuits, time with friends and family, they perform better. Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to test day, that information is more easily retrievable because you've stacked or you've made the connections, right?
Yeah. So what we want to do on test day, by the time we get there, we want to study very little. Test day should really have no practice questions in it. Maybe we've made mnemonics. Those are memory triggers. A couple of symbols, a couple of acronyms for the hardest things, like, oh, that's so difficult, that particular series of formulas, the step-by-step in this process. But what we really want is to have protected our sleep. We know that, you know, by the time students are in post-secondary, too many of them aren't even getting 7 hours of sleep a night. We want to make sure that we're moving. We know that students, a third of them aren't meeting the Canadian guidelines. We want to make sure that they are taking care of the other facets of their life, which give them capacity to perform well on that test. So test day, I want students walking in with a swagger. I do not want them in their pajamas, and I'm not anti-comfort. Yeah. I want them with no panic, no circles under their eyes. I want them feeling like I have practiced what is going to be asked of me on this test, and I've done it, in a sense, in moderation. I've done it with a great amount of wisdom, not too much and not right before.
There's going to be some students in particular who are going to watch or listen to this, maybe. Their parents probably will. Yeah. And they'll say, I don't know about this thing. I don't know if it's going to work for me. If there's one thing that they should do just to start, what would the most important thing be?
Yeah, and I want to say to those students, I totally get it, especially if those students have had a lot of success by rewriting those notes. That's not the thing that's working for them. The students who haven't met being blanking out or a poor mark, who haven't met academic languishing, it's because their skill is sort of at where the content is. But we know that the more school you do, the higher the pace, the density of texts, the volume. I just don't want students to have to experientially meet the wall where they do crash out on a test.
It's going to catch up to them.
It just is inevitable. We know enough. This isn't like a rogue field of study. This is actually, it comes with robust research. It just hasn't made it into popular conversations yet. I will say, on our side, the head of AI at Google did say in the last 6 months, the skill that is going to be most needed by the next generation is the skill of learning how to learn. So I feel like I've been, yelling from the rooftops, hey, I feel like we got a little credibility now. Like, all right, it's not so quiet anymore. So to the skeptical student, I would say 2 things. I know you said one. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Can't.
If there's 2, there's 2.
Great. So the one thing is that when it feels like you're in class and the teacher's going, you're like, yes, I got it. That is not the same thing as deeply knowing it a week from now, 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now. We don't want to conflate feeling like, yeah, I recognize that, and being able to retrieve, use, and apply that information. So that's the forgetting curve. We know that by the time a student, no matter how on it they were in class, when they leave that lesson, half is gone. That's not an exception. That's for all of us. So instead of fighting that, we want to work with it. So when I work with my students at Awaken Learning, or when I teach at TMU, I have 250 students every semester. I teach how to learn and how to cope with when learning doesn't go very well. I will remind, I want you to touch the material 4 times. That's why teachers, when they build in quizzes and students are like, oh my gosh, I've got a weekly quiz. This is the best. Your teacher's on your side. They've actually integrated a key learning strategy. They're making practice questions for you. Right. Low stakes quizzes, the best. Yeah. If you're not given that, make them yourself. That's first. And I will say underneath that, what's the worst thing that could happen? You will have more time for either friends, your ambitions. We've got lots of students have beautiful dreams they're chipping away at. They're making a music album, they're creating a fashion label, they're community activists. You'll have more time to do the thing you want to do. That's outside of school. You won't need to borrow from your sleep as much. I want students to have work that fits around sleep, not sleep that fits around work. Right. Yeah. So there is no harm in trying practice questions. They're like, no, but I love my notes. They're working, I promise. Then try both. And see what happens. So that's what I would say. I would say forgetting curve, and there actually is no harm to practicing with questions.
Yeah. I want to end on something you just brought up, and that's teaching kids how to cope when the learning isn't working. What are some of the steps that we should be mindful of?
So we can do a whole podcast on this, right? Whole
sure.
Second one, whole third one.
Part 2 starts now.
Well, what's so funny is you never know ahead of time what lands with resonance. And very recently, as a lecturer, you always are being evaluated. So a tenured prof comes in and they will watch your teaching. And that particular day, I was teaching students about how to receive feedback, especially feedback that lands with an ouch. And the visiting prof was so taken and like, this is me too. This is all of us. Right. That she said, can I teach this? Can I take your model and teach it in my class? And then I was asked to come and lecture to the entire department of tenured faculty. I'm very heartened by that. I'm not like, oh, look at me. No, I think that's very touching because we're all experiencing something similar. Rapid fire emails from students like, wait, no, but I worked so hard on this. Oh, but I put in so much effort. Can't you boost my mark? Can I have a makeup? Can I have a do-over? No, but I can teach you how to sit with and learn from feedback that is difficult. So step 1, and I won't go through all of them, but step 1, don't respond within 2 or 3 days. You're not responding from a skillful place. I'm not in any way saying don't feel your feelings, feel your feelings. It is painful, especially because we live in a time and place where we conflate worth and marks. Oh, my grade A means something about me. A C grade means something about me. No, it doesn't. It's a snapshot in time of your approach, of
your execution on the day.
Oh my God, totally right. How much you feel included in the learning space. On and on and on and on and on and on. Being able to sit with something that is ouch is a very important skill. That's never going to go away. That's a lesson for all of us. Next is to get really clear with what exactly the feedback is. I say that because students will often race to just the mark, like flip, 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 okay, that's the mark. Yeah. But they might not see the written commentary, which will have directives for next time, feedback about what happened. Then I want students to lay side by side their work and any rubric. It is less and less the case that a teacher can just assign an A or a 72. There is a lot more transparency around what that is based on. And if that is their rubric, a marking scheme, a checklist, I want students to look at that before they outsource and go, you tell me. No. They told you with the rubric how to get the A, the level 4, the 4+, the 89%. Yeah. Now it's time for you, after you have felt your feelings, to cross-compare and calibrate what was being asked for and did I really do it? Not did I think I did it, not did I wish it's the case. And then from there, it's an exercise of professional communication. If you want to sit with a teacher and go over it, it is around pulling out the learning nuggets. What's really here that I can apply not just to future work in this particular class, but in other classes. There is so much richness that can happen with the hardest feedback that we receive that can serve us so well for future assessments and being able to cope with when feedback in the professional sphere doesn't go our way.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I'll end with this. With technology and social media and phones as an extra appendage, AI, decades of studying the wrong way, are you hopeful for the future that that's maybe a year, 10 years from now, we're going to be studying and our students are going to be much better for it?
Yes. Yes, I am, because I work at an institution that made learning strategies into an open elective. That means any student from any discipline can take my course. I went from having 60 students to 250 a semester with a wait list. I wrote a book called Feel Good Learning, and I wrote it and I self-published it as a friend to students when they are panicked, when they don't really know how to do the thing that was asked. That became a bestseller. That's like a love letter to students going like, I could really help make it better. I am being asked to come into beautiful spaces like this, going like, well, I don't know, how could it go better? I'm being asked to come and teach faculty and teachers. I'm creating teacher certification in learning strategies. I think it's possible. And what gives me hope is there is an untenability about the one-to-one model. Oh, academic distress, we're going to send you to get support here, here, and here. I think teachers and the burnout they're experiencing going like, but I want a strategy that can actually prevent the fallout from a last-minute essay, a study, a test that went really poorly. There is a hunger. There is an absolute moment in time where we are pummeled with information, and there are so many technologies. And I also think that more and more students are just getting sick and tired and enraged of their attention being the grand experiment and being stolen. And so they want to go, how? I see that I have 5 hours, 14 hours on my device. I want them back. I want more of my life. I want my sleep. I want my mental health. I want my physical health. And I want to flourish academically. I see it every day where I lecture. I see it with my clients. I see it with my team and their clients. I am hopeful.
As an add-on to that, you're doing this at the university level. Should we be doing this at the high school or maybe even the elementary school level? Say, listen, kids, this is how we're going to be doing it.
Yes. See how concise I just got there?
Yes, but
yes.
Are we close to doing that?
No. so
how do we bridge the knowing and the doing gap?
Yes. I just will be very honest.
Yeah.
I am not a very patient human. And that's why I do this work.
Right.
I can't wait for policy to change. Often the experiments that happen curricularly, it's like a trend, a lobby movement. We are getting so clear about what works in terms of learning. Now, do I think the structure of post-secondary, the structure of a K-12 day is as it should be?
Right.
Beyond my scope.
Yeah.
But since we're in it, I want students' pockets filled with learning strategies because they prevent academic distress. Learning strategies, especially holistic ones that integrate well-being, they solve for, it's a multi-solving co-benefit solution for student mental health, inequity and injustice in the classroom, and academic performance. We can tend to those three at the same time. So it is a delight to teach at TMU, but you're asking the right question. Wouldn't those students have been so much better served if they had learned in K-12? So I get very excited. I get asked to come into parent councils. I get asked to come and teach teachers. I get asked to come into independent schools to talk to faculty and parents, because we're all in an education ecosystem. We want the same message. And I'm a big yes on that. That's not a scalable model, but that's why I'm trying to create let's get more learning strategists out there.
Yeah.
There isn't a formal pathway to become that. So I want to get the word out about what they are. I want to share strategies right away with students so that they can feel immediate relief and see their success go up. I want parents to be informed. I want less household friction for all of us, for all of us. And I just can't wait around for big sweeping changes to happen. So for now, see a learning strategist, get a learning strategist in to talk, read something about learning strategies, and we'll just do it from the ground up.
Where can we get your book, and where can we get more information on studying better and learning better?
That's very kind. And it's very kind of you to ask, because I'm an educator first, entrepreneur second. So it always gets a little like, oh gosh.
Right.
But that's how impact can happen. So folks can follow me at Awakened Learning. I participate in social media for good. You won't see me dancing or pointing at anything. I try to share as much good free content. I have a newsletter that is non-salesy and non-gross. So you can find that at my website, awakenedlearning.ca. I give out lots of free PDF resources, how to study for multiple choice tests. That causes so much stress. How to write a letter to your teacher or an email to your teacher or prof when you feel super intimidated. All those kinds of like how do you do this? You will find that on my website. I've written a number of books, so Feel Good Learning is one of them. That's for anybody. That's for students, parents, and teachers, but really written to students. I have folks using it in their classrooms, at their schools. I've written one just for parents called Raising Well Learners, so that they know what to nudge, encourage, say, ask, inquire. My third book is coming out this fall. It's called A New Way to Learn with Bloomsbury UK. And so that will be out in time for first year post-secondary students. And then folks can look in the future, because I'm also creating an anti-procrastination app called Paced, and my teacher certification called Groundwork. We've opened up our wait list, and I'm stunned. Like, it is growing because people want these strategies. They help the student, they help the teacher, they help the parent, because the parent is also struggling with, how do I prioritize in humane ways? How do I align my tasks with my actually available time? So those are some of the ways that people can get in touch.
Amazing. You have a lot going on. I really appreciate your time and your insight. There is obviously a better way to study and to learn. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you deeply for the opportunity to share this work.
All right, that is Deena Shaffer, and that is it for the Newsmakers podcast. A big thanks to the all-star cast behind the scenes. If you like today's episode, click the thumbs up, hit subscribe, leave a comment. You can catch the Newsmakers podcast on chch.com/podcasts and wherever you get your favorite podcasts.